Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Monday, May 16th, 2016.
Commissioner Davis, Rodriguez, James, Rupenning, and Ascento are present. President James, we have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Sanitation.
Good morning, Cecile Buncio with Sanitation.
Good morning, Mike Cirillo with the Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Chris Smith, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting.
And good morning, Gary Harris, Bureau of Street Services.
Good morning, Lori Rittenberg, City Attorney.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we do not have any speaker cards under general public comment, nor any of the regular items.
Then we'll close general public comment. Our first item of business, the approval of the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, April 27th, 2016. Is there a second to my motion that we approve those meeting minutes by Commissioner Rodriguez? Any objection? Without objection, we'll approve those meeting minutes. Agenda item, well, before we get to our agenda items, we do have a resolution and presentation. Mr. Greg Good from the Mayor's Office of City Services on this first day of National Public Works Week. Yes, sir.
Good morning, President James.
You have a framing budget over there at Moss.
And admittedly, sheepishly, I will confess that I just spilled coffee on it, as I told you. But I managed to save it. Good morning, everybody. How we doing? So it's a real pleasure to be here this morning. As you all know, as you alluded to, President James, this week is National Public Works Week. Established in 1960, it is an opportunity to honor, recognize, and really appreciate the phenomenal work that is both necessary and really fuels our quality of life all across this country. Street lights, inspections, picking up the garbage, maintaining our trees, building bridges. These are the things that genuinely provide the foundation, literally the foundations for our lives. Here in Los Angeles, we are very fortunate to also have great leadership in those realms, and this week should be a recognition of that from our Public Works Commissioners who have shown such great leadership in your time on this board, to our general managers and leadership in our departments who have, on a regular basis, gone above and beyond and employed vision and employed persistence in doing things like street lighting, putting solar panels on street lights, like contract administration, developing a small business program for transitional workers in the sidewalk program, street services doing one of the first really comprehensive State of the Trees report, and, by the way, getting 2,400 lane miles every year. Sanitation with the franchise and with Operation Clean Streets, and then Bureau of Engineering, which just continues to sort of push the envelope as we do things like the 6th Street Bridge, which will be an icon for the city of Los Angeles. And then on top of that, and perhaps most importantly, is the 5,000 men and women of the boards of bureaus of public works that make it all possible. We have a bevy of superstars doing the work every single day that make the city run. Too often we forget. Too often we don't pay attention. And this is a great week to really celebrate them in terms of making our lives and the lives of all Angelenos the quality that they need to be. So, on behalf of the mayor, I'm here to declare this week Public Works Week here in Los Angeles and provide this shiny, albeit marginally coffee-touched resolution to the board and to the president. So thank you all so much and have a great week. Look forward to tomorrow evening.
Great. Thank you, Greg. And we certainly appreciate all of the support that we have from the Mayor's Office, from the Mayor's Office of City Services, and from your entire team over there. So thank you again for the recognition and thank you for the support.
Thank you all. Have a great week. Superstar.
Hey, Greg, why don't we do a photo with that nice, let's do a quick photo before you head out, and then we'll get back to our agenda. Actually, Fernando, real quick, while they're setting up the photo, let me take care of those two communication items. Agenda item number 3, attorneys for Southern District Council of Laborers transmitting a stop notice in the amount of $7,550.41 against Century Specialties Corp. doing business as Century Fences in connection with the Los Angeles Zoo and Botanical Gardens Rainforest of the Americas project. Is there a second to my motion that we approve number 3 forthwith? By Commissioner Rodriguez. That will be received forthwith. Agenda item number 4, Robertson's has transmitted a stop notice in the amount of $1,439.35 in connection with the La Cienega Boulevard from Olympic Boulevard to Airdrome street lighting project. Contractor Elecnor Belco Electric. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 4 forthwith? That's seconded. Any objection? Without objection, that will be received forthwith. Okay, we will take a brief break from the agenda and go to our photograph with Mr. Good. Okay, going back on our agenda, agenda item number 1, Bureau of Engineering, Council District 11, recommending the board authorize the city engineer to issue deductive final closeout change order number 5 to Keywood Infrastructure West Company for a not-to-exceed amount of $150,997.65 for the Capital Improvement Project 2430 Hyperion Treatment Plant G Street Pipe Rack Structural Rehabilitation Project to provide credit for all the unused bid item allowances. Mr. Ohanian.
Yes, Eddie Ohanian, Bureau of Engineering, Environmental Engineering Division. We are requesting your authorization to issue a deductive change order, closeout change order, to provide credit for unused allowance items for $150,997.65. This project was intended to rehab G Street Pipe Rack at Hyperion Treatment Plant. And this rehab included structural rehab and also painting and recoating of the entire structure. G Street Pipe Rack is a very large structure, steel structure that carries numerous pipelines, some as large as 36 inches. This pipe rack is about 20 feet above the ground and has a bridge span of a width of 12 feet and runs about 1,450 foot long, pretty much connects the Hyperion Energy Recovery Facility to neighboring Scattergood DWP. This pipeline was successfully rehabbed and returned back to the plant operation. This contract was awarded in March 17 of 2014 for $4,854,000 with 5% contingency of $242,700 and with a complete construction budget of $5,096,700. This project, again, is 100% complete with less than 1/3 of 1% change order. There was total of 4 change orders issued for about $15,000. And we are requesting your authorization to have a deductive change order of $135,000 for all of the unused allowances for the contract. This brings the total project change order to a negative of $135,000. This means money will come back from the contractors to the city. We consider this as a very successful construction project. We finished the construction just under the budget. And with a construction change order of, again, less than 1/3 of 1%, and industry average is 5%, and my division's average is about 2%. So we're actually breaking our own record of construction change orders. Any questions?
Okay, before we have questions from Mr. Ohanian, Mr. Spindler, you have a speaker card on number 1.
For the record, you're violating the Ralph M. Brown Act. The card was labeled PC 422A. That is another Brown Act violation for my civil attorneys. So, Kiewit, again, very legitimate company. They don't steal. They don't put capital scams into your campaigns. They just do the job. And they came in under budget and on time, which is a great thing. I wasn't supposed to be here today. I was supposed to be rotting in jail until Tuesday when they were going to arraign me on PC 422A, but I came here early. I'm on budget and I'm on time, just like Kiewit. Not a one of you looks me in the eye. Shame, yes. But don't be ashamed of Kiewit Infrastructure West, because they're doing what you're supposed to do, working hard, trying to save the taxpayers' money. Up to $150,000, so it's $135,000 and change going back to the taxpayers. Now, the only thing I request is that you're going to need about $4.5 million for my 3 civil lawsuits, so you should take that savings of $135,000, appropriate it forthwith to the Budget and Finance Committee for outside counsel, because you're going to need a lot of help, especially when you look on the website that you maintain. Listen to the last 7 minutes of the Wednesday night, 6 o'clock p.m. meeting with Herb Wesson Jr., threatening me to come up to him to a fight. And yet he says he's in imminent fear of his life and had me arrested Friday, walking into the steps, attend 2 public meetings, and I was denied access into this building. Well, here the fuck I am. And I congratulate you, Kiewit. Thank you for that $135,000, because the city's going to need that for its outside counsel funds for my lawsuit
2 minutes
alone. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Spindler. Agenda item number 2. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Ohanian. Questions? Commissioner Jacinto.
Thank you, President James.
Number 1.
Congratulations. Thank you for keeping the costs down. You know, the delta, any change orders we have, 2%, is a very manageable and very admirable deviation, you know, and to get these deductive change orders are always a pleasant surprise, but thank you for keeping our costs down. It shows that our this division in the Bureau of Engineering is well run on a continual basis.
Thank you very much.
Any further issues or questions on number 1? Is there a motion on number 1 by Commissioner Rodriguez? I'll second it. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 1. Any issues, sending it forthwith? We'll send number 1 forthwith. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2, Bureau of Street Services, Council Districts 1, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14. Recommending that the board authorize the Director of the Bureau of Street Services on behalf of the city to negotiate and execute 5 service contracts with Angels Walk, LA for the following projects: Angels Walk Crenshaw, Angels Walk Highland Park, Angels Walk Silver Lake, Angels Walk Boyle Heights, and Angel Walk Central. Various terms and costs per project. Mr. Spindler, you have a card on number 2.
Again, another violation of the Ralph M. Brown Act, failure to call the card as listed. PC 422A, which is my criminal charge. Now, You should have these walking execution contracts. Like, for example, when somebody comes to City Hall and they try to enter this meeting to speak at a public meeting, and 3 detectives swarm them, handcuff them on the steps of City Hall, not letting me come in. Why? Because you should have a walking project where you should build a tunnel. You should build a tunnel from the entrance of this City Hall with a train rail into the Metropolitan Detention Center, because everybody that's going to come here and oppose you will be arrested and charged with fake crimes. Now, they had to use vehicles to transport me, 5 detectives. You could save a lot of money by just having a rail car going underground the city from the front of the steps of City Hall directly into the Metropolitan Detention Center, so they could book the people faster. Because anybody that comes in this goddamn place that opposes you is going to be put up on a $75,000 bond, and when you pay 10% of that, that's $7,500. So I had to pay that money to get out. Now, they're going to be imprisoning a lot more people than me, so you got to get your underground railroad. The Harriet Tubman Herb Wesson illegal detention railroad car path. And you should put that in CD1 on behalf of the Angels Walk LA. They should build that. That way, you can make it so much simpler to illegally imprison, illegally harass any public speaker that wants to come here under the Ralph M. Brown Act and the First Amendment. Because that's what you're doing. A conspiracy to violate the First Amendment, the Second Amendment to the California Constitution, the Ralph M. Brown Act, the 8th, the 10th, the 5th, the 6th, and the Third Amendment. So make that railroad change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Agenda item number 2, Ferdy Chan.
Good morning, President James,
Morning.
Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Enriquez, Commissioner Bepron, Commissioner Silo, Bureau Rep, City Attorney, and Executive Officers. I'm Ferdy Chan. I'm the project manager for this Angels Walk LA projects. Angels Walk LA is a registered 501(c) nonprofit organizations. They have been putting up the design guide tours and with the historic stanchions and guidebook, with the ambitions and encouraging pedestrians to explore at the street levels, highlighting historic and architectural landmarks and along the trail. And also introducing the public transit for pedestrians to explore the neighborhood. Very welcomed in a lot of neighborhoods and communities. These 5 projects were funded by the Metro through the call for projects. Street Services was authorized by the city to sponsor Angels Walk LA when they submit these applications. Angels Walk LA require a sponsorship because Metro does not, due to Metro requirements, only public agencies is allowed to submit grant applications. Non-profit like Angels Walk LA need a sponsorship. That's why Street Services come in. Of these 5 projects, we have executed service contract with Angels Walk LA in the past on Angels Walk Crenshaw and Angels Walk Highland Park. Projects were in progress, but were delayed because of some staffing issue within Angels Walk LA. The staffing issue is when the executive director had some major health issues. So the progress was delayed. And now they have reorganized, and the board have assigned a new executive directors to move on with these projects. Angels Walk LA has moved on and established all the appendix guidelines with the service contract, following the federal and state regulations. The appendix has been reviewed by the City Attorney Office. Mr. Ted Jordan has reviewed those and approved it as to form and legality. So that's why we're here today. We're recommending the board to approve the Director of Services to negotiate and execute the service contracts with Angels Walk LA. There'll be one service contract per each project, so the total 5 service contracts. With that said, if you have any question, I would like to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. One question: if we were to carve out one of the projects, and just because there's an issue that has arisen from the council office in CD13 regarding Angel Walk Silver Lake, regarding maintenance. You're aware of that?
Yes, sir. I understand.
So I want you to talk a bit about that. But if we don't approve this today as it relates to Angel Walk Silver Lake, is there risk of losing the funding that exists now for it?
That particular project, yes, sir. There is a risk to lose the money because of the delay of execution of a license agreement with Metro. Metro staff is ready to recommend the application of fund in coming June. So that's why we're asking you to approve the director to execute the contract, so we can execute the LOA with Metro to keep the fund intact, and we'll go back to Metro and negotiate with them. Maybe we can expand on the existing project scope or relocate the project scope. That may be doable.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I have contact and discussed the issue with the councilman himself on a committee meeting last Thursday, and I understand his intent.
Okay. Commissioner Repenning?
I think they had suggested moving it to Hollywood, where there's a business improvement district, and so I think their concern was not having a maintenance plan. So if there's a way that we can work with them, and I'm happy to personally pitch in as the liaison for that council district to
Thank you, Commissioner. When we reach Metro, we will definitely let you know and keep you abreast of our discussion with Metro.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, sir. Then anything further? Yes, Commissioner. I'm sorry, Mr. Campos.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. Mr. Chan, can you just walk us through the actual dollar amounts that's going to be considered by the board for each of the contracts? So we have 5 separate contracts with a specific dollar amount and how those relate to the actual grant amount. So just for clarification and just for the record.
Are our numbers off on the board report?
I wouldn't say that they're off. I think they just require some explaining to put some context behind the grant dollar amount that's being awarded and the contract dollar amount that's being considered before your board today. Okay. There's a variance, a delta, so I believe there's an explanation that Mr. Chan may be able to present to you.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Campos. Each of the contract have 2 different elements. One is implemented by Angels Walk LA. Their task is to design and do research, a lot of historical research and photography and design of a guidebook and extensions. And they're also responsible for printing the guidebooks and fabricating the extensions. Street Services is responsible for overall project management, and we're also responsible for installation of those extensions throughout the cities, throughout the guidelines. As shown in Table 8, the grant amount for each of those projects was stipulated Angels Walk, Crenshaw, $764,000. With Angels Walk budget is $625,000. For BSS expenses, $139,000. Angels Walk, Highland Park, the grant amount was $784,000. Angels Walk LA budget is $639,000. And Street Service budget is $145,000. For Angels Walk Boyle Heights, the grant amount is $818,000. Angels Walk budget is $639,000, and the remainder for BSS budget. Angels Walk Silver Lake, the grant amount is $844,000. Angels Walk budget is $639,000. And for Angels Walk Central, The grant amount is $858,000. Angels Walk LA budget $639,000. The grant amount is increasing just basically Metro put in the factor of cost of living adjustment.
Mr. Campos, is that consistent with the documentation that you have?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments?
Yeah, I wanted to just know the
Commissioner Davis.
construction, the staff is, who's doing the construction on the wall projects?
The installations is with Bureau of Street Services staff.
The staff is doing it?
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Hey, is there a motion on, or I'll make a motion on number 2. Is there a second? By Commissioner Rodriguez. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Commissioner Repenning, thank you for your assistance with Angel Walk Silver Lake, and Mr. Chan, you as well. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Any problem sending it back forthwith? We'll send number 2 forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Campos. Agenda item number 5, an oral report regarding the Public Works Trust Fund semi-annual status update from the Board of Public Works and the Office of Accounting. Mr. Spindler, you have a card on number 5.
Yes, again, PC 422A, that's what the card was.
Previous speaker spoke about, for example, transferring this group to SCE. Well, look at what we're dealing with us.
Yeah, you see, Wednesday, May the 11th, 2016, we were in Van Nuys.
Nausea, memory loss.
A bunch of people didn't like what they were hearing about the city's reform package.
Shortness of breath, ringing in the air.
Look at that. People can hardly talk. They're so upset about this. So, I turned in a speaker card to speak, and then the next thing I know, Friday, I'm being charged with PC 422A, criminal threats with a $75,000 bond. Yeah, it sounds like there was a lot of threats in there, huh? But you see, Herb Wesson forgot to turn off the microphone when he threw me out of the meeting. So on your own website, the mic was hot. It contained all of the things he said.
If Mr. Spindler had enough guts, he would say it to my face. He would bring it to my face, calling me the N-word.
Now, does that sound like somebody in imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death? Of course it doesn't. So, here's what happens with your city, with your trust works and your Office of Accounting. You have to put up the bond, 10%. If you don't get out on the bond, you have to appear on a Friday, 2 days later, Tuesday. And I was going to railroad me into court on Tuesday and make me plead guilty to a crime with 5 years of probation and a restraining order. So is that worth me paying $7,500 to get out to go get a criminal defense attorney and a civil attorney? Yes. This is all about money. You're not doing a damn thing for people that need it the most.
2 minutes.
The people in low income are not being represented.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Mr. Campos, on agenda item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. I am pleased today to present in front of you an oral report. I am joined by our Assistant Director of Accounting, Ching Elegan. In our office, Victoria Santiago was unable to make it today, but I am pleased to report to you regarding our financial status on our Public Works Trust Fund. About 2 months ago, we presented an item regarding our 6-year reconciliation backlog and completion of that backlog. At that time, there was about $101 million in our Public Works Trust Fund. As of December 31st, we have decreased that dollar amount to $96.7 million. So we are moving in the right direction. What's interesting to note about this is that we received about $11.5 million over the last 6 months from July 1st through December 2015. However, we paid out about $16 million as well. So one of the greatest opportunities in doing these status reports and also our reconciliation is that we're finding out that about 75% of the monies that were coming in are going out within a short period of time, but that leaves that extra 25% as an area of improvement or an area for us to actually look at at what can we do better to get these dollars back into the streets and back into our communities to fund these capital projects. We will continue to pay attention to these trends and also work with the Office of Accounting and also the Bureau of Engineering and Bureau of Contract Administration to make sure that these monies are being utilized in the same way that they were collected for, and also funding public works projects in a quick and swift way. The other thing that's really interesting to find out in this financial status report is that 73% of all the balance still remains in the top 3 accounts: our B permits, our general improvement guarantee deposits, and also our special projects. We have been working very closely with the CAO's office and also the Bureau of Engineering to pay these B permits as they are being utilized and completed to transfer the monies back to the general fund. For example, this year we have completed a transfer of $10.9 million, and we have another $1.5 million scheduled for this month to be transferred to the general fund. So in total, we will hit our $12.5 million target to transfer to the general fund from B permits. However, even with that, we're still having a balance of $32 million in the account. So that, again, this tells me another opportunity for us to work with the Bureau of Engineering very closely to make sure that as these deposits are being collected from depositors, that we're actually reviewing these plans in a quick, swift manner so that we can get the work out and get these plans approved as quickly as possible. Again, that's showing about a 60 to 70% trend burn rate. So that means we're collecting more than what we can actually work as fast as possible. The last piece of information that I'd like to share with the commissioners is that our loan receivable balance has decreased from that $30 million balance that we reported a couple of months ago down to about $26 million. We were able to collect close to $4.5 million over the last 6 months, primarily from the Department of Recreation and Parks. Before you, I provided you a list of all the receivables, loan receivables outstanding by department. So this gives us an idea in terms of who is the primary requester, if you will, for loans. And we have identified that the CAO's office by far is the number one requester. So we will be working with the CAO's office throughout the year to figure out ways that we can collect that funding and get it back into the Public Works Trust Fund as quickly as possible. One last piece of information also, we are currently in budget deliberations with the Budget and Finance Committee, and I believe it's going to be considered by City Council on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, and that is to fund a Public Works Trust Fund Nexus study. And that Nexus study, we had recommended $150,000. The budget before the City Council has a $50,000 appropriation or $50,000 in funding plus an additional $50,000 in the UB for a total balance of $100,000. We believe that we can continue to move forward with the RFP as planned. However, we do anticipate going back to City Council and going back to the Budget and Finance Committee to request that unappropriated balance so that we can fund this project. So it's going to delay the process about 2 to 3 months is what our anticipated delays are. However, we will continue to move as quickly as possible and diligently as possible so that we can get this RFP off the ground. With that, I will open it up to any questions that this board may have for us. And again, Ching Elegan is in our office in the room also for any questions.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you, Fernando. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for your work in this area. I think you have brought about a lot of transparency and just really honing in on a lot of the areas that we needed to be focused on as a board with this trust fund. And it really is a testament to your leadership in this area. And I want to thank, and I know Commissioner James has also been involved in this, it's a very heady task, and so I just want to thank you for putting the energy and time. And I think your experience, having been in the CAO's office, having been the Inspector General there, I think was just a perfect example as to why you are the best fit for this role here as our executive officer. And I think, has it been a year already that you've been on in this role? Yeah.
Time flew.
Yeah, and I think this is just one more example of the right decision that was made to bring you on into this role. So I want to just say thank you for your work in this area. But as it relates to the budget and the Nexus study, can you explain to me, obviously the recommended allocation is not what you had hoped given what you're seeking to achieve. Given the scale and scope of this fund and everything that we need to provide, it would be a shame for us to fall short in budget to allocate the amount of resources that we need to really focus on doing an excellent job in this area. So could you tell me, given the shortfall that is not being recommended at this time for for the budgetary allocation, what that would mean in terms of our ability to fulfill the objectives that you had identified with this Nexus study.
Great question, Commissioner. So there's three major things that we wanted to achieve with the $150,000, and that is, one, to scrub about 12,000 different accounts one by one so that we can identify where the originating source was and also what those deposits were originally intended for. The second, and then also identify the council district in which those funds were at. The second objective with the $150,000 was to provide this board and also my office a slew or a menu of options that we can develop a policy for the Public Works Trust Fund.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that because the background noise, I missed that.
No worries. On the second objective with the $150,000, we intended to have the consultant provide us some options that my office and also eventually your board and city council could have to establish a Public Works Trust Fund Nexus policy in which we can establish reasonable relationship. The third option, or the third deliverable that we expected from the 150 is also to develop a geocoding plot where we can actually geocode these deposits by district, by location, and then take our GIS existing layer with our Bureau of Engineering's construction work, public works projects, and layer those two layers onto each other so that we can establish a reasonable relationship also. In other words, if we find an existing project that's on 4th and Main and we find a deposit that's on 3rd and Main, the reasonable relationship policy would help us establish, can we tap into those funds to provide funding for that specific project. So what's at stake at this point in time is that we may have to remove one of the deliverables. Another option is that we could go back to City Council, which is our intent and our desire is to go back to City Council to let them know, here's what the proposals have indicated and here's the total cost. We may find that the total cost comes in closer to $100,000. We may find out that the total cost may come in at $200,000. We do not know that at this point in time. So that's why I indicated that the delays as the proposed funding is laid out as of right now, if council were to approve it as is, the expected delays is an additional 2 to 3 months, simply because we would have to go back to Budget and Finance and then City Council ask for the UB authority and then possibly more money if it's needed.
Which seems like a very complicated way of trying to deliver something that has a huge return on investment. And so I wanted to just kind of ask that question and put that out on the table because I think it's important that those considerations are made when you talk about the amount of expenditure in consideration for the return on investment. I mean, and we're talking about the efficiencies of how we manage money here. It's a significant issue, and I just hope that we're really all of those factors are fully being considered when they're making the budgetary decisions on this.
And that was a excellent question, Commissioner. That was a point of deliberation with the Budget and Finance Commission. In fact, we received multiple questions regarding the Nexus study and how much money was needed and what the intent or the scope of work that we wanted to propose. So I don't think that the City Council has said, no, we're not going to fund this. They're just saying, we're going to give you some money, some seed money to launch the RFP, then come back once you get the proposals and tell us how much more or possibly can you fund within that existing $100,000. The answer is I don't know what the end proposals will be. However, based on our anticipated scope of work, I just don't see the $100,000 being sufficient. However, there could be economies of scale. There could be the competitiveness within the market that would allow these consultants to come back with a price tag of close to $100,000.
Well, and just to liken it to what we went through with Bavin and the amount of money that we had allocated, we had to really prioritize what we could deliver for the amount of money that we were provided. And so, this one-year timeline, when we talk about RFPs, when we talk about doing efforts like this, it goes very, very quickly. And so the challenge with that is to have to kind of piecemeal and chunk it out is not always the most effective way for us to deliver the things that we need on an expedient nature. So.
I agree.
Whatever I can do to be helpful. Clearly, this is a big deal. I'm sure that message has been conveyed, no doubt. But really, just again, my hat's off to you for all of your work in this area because it's been a long time coming, and I think it's of tremendous value. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I could, I would mention a couple of things. First of all, in response to Commissioner Rodriguez's inquiry regarding the return on investment, I having been involved in many meetings with many different council members on this, I think they recognize the return on investment. They would like to have probably funded us the full 150, although I think there was some pushback from, and it's pretty public in the public hearing, from the CLA regarding the process of this and the kind of the order in which the CLA wanted the funding to come. But I do think, and so I think Commissioner Rodriguez, the impression I got back from the council offices is that they have a very solid understanding of the opportunity on the return on investment here. So I think that we'll have success there. As Mr. Campos mentioned earlier, we'll see what comes back regarding the RFP, which leads me to the question that I had. When you talk about going back to the council for the additional funding, do you think, Fernando, we'll be able to get there with the first FSR, or is it going to be the second FSR?
Definitely not the first FSR. The first
Just don't have
FSR
time.
typically goes around October, early November. The RFP would be starting to be drafted at the end of this fiscal year. We would probably release it around August, September. Typically, a response will come back around October, November. So I would think the second FSR, the mid-year FSR. So we can, that's a great point, Commissioner, because we can ask for the UB utilization at that time. If not, we can schedule a separate report back to the Budget and Finance to tap into that unappropriated balance.
Okay. The other thing I do want to echo something that Commissioner Rodriguez said, that this update in this format is very helpful for us in its summary form. It's what we've been working toward. I know you've worked very hard towards it. I don't remember, Fernando, if it was one of the first meetings that we had when you came on board. One of the first things that I pointed out was this public trust fund that looked like, Public Works Trust Fund, that looked like a monstrosity to me of sorts. But it's something that when I first heard about it, sitting in this chair during a hearing because we were front funding something, I started to delve into it. I met with the controller's office over it. Your predecessor, a number of times, we set up our Public Works Trust Fund ad hoc committee where we were trying to do our own nexus connections for various council offices. Council offices offered us interns, and it was just such a large task that we were never really able to get there. What you've been able to do is to get us to this point where we have crafted under your direction this nexus study method that fits within the budget to try and get us to home plate, for lack of a better analogy, where we're trying to get. Now, I think we have some additional issues that we're going to need to tackle next. But before we tackle the issues of the loans and the pre-1989 money and post-1989 money, we had to get here. And so I really appreciate your work and Vicky's work and Ching, your work, because I knew it was a lot of work that we put on you in a pretty compact period of time to get to this point. So especially with the staffing challenges that we've had in the Office of Accounting. So please send word that we do notice it. It does not go unnoticed, and we certainly appreciate it, and we recognize the level of work this is and the complexity that it is too.
Commissioner, I would also like to echo that and say thank you to Ching, Vicky, and the staff in the General Fund Accounting Office, Amy Chang, Roselle, if you're listening. It couldn't have been done without their work, really. My plan was just a plan. It's the big cookie, and we wanted to take little chunks of the cookie one by one bite at a time. And so it took a lot of meetings. We did set up a monthly meeting with our Public Works Trust Fund and our staff. Commissioner James, I think you came in a couple of times, and we saw us in round table virtual meeting, so we were actually going one by one. I think the other great thing that came out through this is not only it helped us catch up on our backlog, but it also helped us identify opportunities for the future in terms of where are the accounts that have the most funding and what can we do differently so that we can start spending this money and fund public works projects so that we can get these back out to the communities as quickly as possible. So those are things that we will be attacking in next fiscal year along with the Public Works Trust Fund Nexus study. So at least we have a direction, we have a roadmap, and we're getting there. It's being achieved slowly but surely.
Yeah, this is so helpful. The summary is very good and makes it so that anybody can understand what we're dealing with. Anything further? So again, thank you, Mr. Campos. Thank you to the Office of Accounting. The oral report will be received, and we look forward to the next one. Mr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.